Hello and welcome to the Divinely Driven Results Show. My name is Elise Smith, Christian business strategist, and I get to empower Christian women entrepreneurs just like you to reach their sales goals by partnering with God, empowering their mindset, and utilizing biblical business strategy. Now, it can be really difficult on how to know how to get started with your public relations and media and how to truly get discovered. So if you're wondering how to attract more stages and media interviews to get that voice out and that message out that God has given you, or maybe you're curious about finding and connecting with journalists or seeking tips for creating a story and media angle that gets publicity, that is what we're going to be talking about here today. And we have an incredible expert with us. Angel Tuccy is a media specialist. She is an award-winning speaker, radio host, TV producer, PR media specialist, and 15-time best-selling author. Woo! Girl, you're amazing. With her help, her clients have been featured in thousands of major media publications, television, radio, podcasts, magazines, and stages. Angel runs one of the top podcast networking groups online, Need a Guest, which brings podcasters and guests together. And I have to say, I have gotten guests from her group. She's absolutely amazing. So check that out for sure. So Angel spent 12 years in broadcasting, where she was awarded Most Influential Woman of the Year, Best Morning Talk Show, and Best Talk Show Team. She's been featured in multiple magazines, shares stages with top influencers, and has been the host of 3 daily talk shows. Wow, girl, you are impressive. So I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us, Angel.
Oh my gosh, Elise, I'm so excited to be with you today. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Now, how did you get started in all of this?
How did I get started in all of this? That's probably the $1 million question, right? I think you show up right in the right place. I was actually hired by a gentleman who was a public speaker originally to help him get booked on stages, right, to get more gigs. And as part of our marketing campaign and marketing strategy, we ended up dumping his whole business idea and came up with a whole brand new marketing plan, and it was leveraging podcasts. So we started our own podcast and had hired somebody to help produce that podcast, somebody who had a whole production studio in his basement, and we had our podcast professionally produced. And just a few months into that, our local radio station discovered us. So when I say get discovered, it's not only my mantra and my tag, it's actually my story. Our podcast got discovered and we became radio talk show hosts on the radio. I'd never been in broadcasting before, started out with broadcasting on the radio and had to learn the whole back end of broadcasting, radio advertising, interviewing skills. And I had one of the best producers on the planet. His name was Charlie. And every single day, after I would broadcast every single day, 5 days a week, every single day for 10 years, we would end the show and he would come in and he was still teaching me something every single day. So I learned from the best. I broadcasted every day. And it was all because I started by hosting my own podcast.
That is so amazing. You never know what doors are going to open when you start taking the path that God wants you to take, right?
It was an amazing journey, Elise. When we first started in radio, of course, I didn't have a background in broadcasting. I had a tremendous fear of public speaking, but radio was easy for me. I could be in my studio, my headphones on, right? Just pretend I was talking to my mom, right? Talking to my producer. We went to commercial every 8 minutes. I had my notes in front of me. Broadcasting was easy for me. Public speaking was not. But when we first started, of course, no background in broadcasting, we needed to build up our audience. Nobody had ever heard of us before, at least not on radio, not traditional radio. So the competition was fierce. We are competing to get people to put our radio dial on their speed dial, right, in their car. Because if they don't have us as one of their pre-programmed buttons, they would never discover us. And then competing against well-known broadcasters who had been in the industry 30, 40, 50 years. So we started teaching people, or we started ourselves being a guest on other people's shows, started speaking every single week to small groups, business groups, I was a guest on other broadcasts. I was teaching my advertisers to go and be guests on other people's shows in order to build their audience, because I knew the power of other people's audiences. If it was going to work for me, right? The reason you advertise, the reason you do any marketing, join a chamber, do networking, show up for anything, is you're trying to get in front of a fresh new audience every single week. Well, radio, magazines, television, podcasts, live stages, virtual stages, they all have an audience, and every single week they're looking for guests and they're looking for speakers.
And that just gets me super excited, not only for you and I, but also for our audience as well, is that if you're not tapping into that right now, and I'm sure she's going to give you some amazing ways to do so, then I really encourage you to do so. I love Angel's story here because she was nervous about public speaking. You got the radio side thing down, but that's a different story. And so you can really step into that fear, it sounds like, and just do it anyway, right? What helped you get over that nervousness of that?
So, it's interesting because we do have, I think a lot of people have a fear of public speaking. The beautiful thing about being interviewed and being a guest, being interviewed, is it's a conversation. It's a dialogue. It's a very different approach than speaking, having to have a PowerPoint presentation, right? To move the audience, to be up there all on your own, and to take them from beginning to end to taking action, right? And making a shift. An interview, being interviewed, most of us have had a conversation, right? On the phone, now on a virtual screen, right? Swapping stories through a virtual screen. We're all very familiar with that process and comfortable with that. And when you're interviewed and somebody starts asking you questions, it's not bragging, right? You're answering their question. Oh, so I hear you're a 15-time best-selling author. It's not like me coming in and saying, hey, let me tell you all about me, where we feel kind of weird about bragging and telling you all of our accolades. But you're asking me about them, and it's easier to answer that question. So being interviewed, to me, takes all the pressure off. If you have a fear of public speaking, you're nervous about getting in front of an audience, you do it from home in the comfort of your own home with all your creature comforts around you. And they're usually pretty short, right? They're 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the most, maybe an hour. And if you think about all the other things that you would be doing to get in front of 50, 100, 1,000 people, right? Who you'd have to be in front of. Being a guest on an interview is probably the best time saver as well. And I'm big into time management, right? I don't have to get in the car. I don't have to find parking. I don't have to fight traffic. And so right from my own home, I used to put a sleep mask on, right? Without even really getting out of bed in the morning. Being a guest and being interviewed, you can impact hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands. So that totally alleviated all of my fears as far as getting my message out. Getting my message out on a public stage and creating a career in public speaking and being on stage, to get rid of all of those butterflies and those nerves. To be honest with you, I'll let you know when I figured it out, right? It's been 5 years. I left broadcasting, and I've been traveling I was traveling as a public speaker before COVID. And I still get butterflies. I still get nervous, right? And before we went live today, we prayed, and just knowing that this is God's kingdom, this is God's message, and I'm just a vessel helps. But it was really just the action of, I think you probably heard it, right? Feel the fear and do it anyways. Like, just step up there and do it anyways. Most people in the audience are grateful that it's you on stage versus them. So there's always that. And yeah, I'll let you know. And I'll let you know when I get over the fear of public speaking. It hasn't quite happened yet.
Yeah, I can totally relate. In fact, we were just talking about how COVID has really changed our world. And I got on an actual stage in person just over the weekend, and it was so exhilarating and so fun, but I could not believe all the nerves just came right back. Like on Zoom and all that, like that virtual events, that doesn't freak me out, but in person, They're always there. And you think about, there's so many athletes and so many other people who they feel the butterflies and they go through it anyway, even though they've been doing it for most of their lives. So don't let that stop you, ladies.
No, it doesn't stop me. And it might, gets me a minute, right, to get going when I first start, but no, it doesn't stop me. And it also, what I've also discovered is, Elise, it's okay. The audience is okay with it. If you can at least get your message out, unfortunately for me, when I first, when I was in high school, my mouth would dry up. I couldn't actually speak. I couldn't get any words out. And so the nerves overtook me. And so I think I've just wrestled them into formation. So the butterflies are still there, but I've just wrestled them into formation because I've done it so many times. And here's another really good secret too, is one was, being interviewed way easier on the nerves. Number two is if you pick your single topic on what you're an expert at. I tell people it's okay to be a one-trick pony. Have your expertise, have the topic that you are just so excited, so passionate about, that if I handed you a microphone and said, you've got 20 minutes, what could I pick your brain on? What could you share? Like, you don't have to research it. You don't have to look it up. So if you pick a topic that you are knowledgeable about, you're excited about, you have experience in, that also helps in alleviating the fear, because even though my nerves might be on, overdrive, what I'm talking about and my knowledge, like, that's going to seep through. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have to, every time I get on stage, come up with, now what am I talking about? And I don't have to prepare, and I don't have to, it's not new for me. If you're going to go and be a guest every single week and leverage the power of other people's podcasts and other people's platforms to share your story, and it's the same message overall, the stories are different, the dialogue's different, but it's the same message overall. Even if you're nervous about it, the knowledge and the memory, the muscle memory will kick in, and you'll still get your message out, and it'll be divine.
Mm-hmm. And I love how you said divine there too, because not only because this is divinely driven results, but I was just thinking about when you're being interviewed compared to having a presentation on stage, there's so much more flexibility to have the Spirit speak to you in the answers that you're giving. And you can customize those answers and give exactly what the audience is needing. And you can do that to an extent on stage, but when it's just that question answer, it's powerful.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Because you've got a PowerPoint behind you. In fact, I did an event not too long ago, a live event. I totally bombed it, Elise. I'd gotten some bad news right before I got on stage. And so my head was not in the right place, and I couldn't figure out the little clicker thing, right, for the PowerPoint. And so there was no room for the Spirit to speak through me, right? Like, I just had too many other distractions happening. Whereas being interviewed, you're mindful, you're thoughtful, you can take a moment. There isn't a prepared presentation sitting behind you that you have to flow. And so I do, right? I think you can let the Holy Spirit speak through you, just like free flow. I've always been able, I think, I would always tell people when I was speaking, there's three presentations. The one that I thought I would give, the one I actually gave, and the one I gave in my car and in my head on the way home, that was just amazing. Like, I could have said this, I should have said that, I could have done this differently. So the one you think you're going to give, the one you actually give, I would tell my husband, I get up on stage and I think I know what I'm going to say, but something else completely came out. I don't even know where that came from, but obviously God wanted me to say it, right? Otherwise he wouldn't have put it there. But then the really elegant one that I was like, afterwards, I could have done this, I could have said this, it all came to me later.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And it really is acknowledging the fact that you are saying exactly what God wants you to say at the moment that you're saying it. And it may not make any sense to you, but if you are asking the Spirit to be with you, I mean, I always pray before all my shows so that we can have God's Spirit to be with us. And I know that it's there. So, okay, well, I have to ask you so the dying question here is, what is the number one way to attract more stages and media interviews, since we've talked about getting over those fears?
Yeah. So the number one way, so there's three things. So number one is, I always tell people, use other people's audiences, like go and be a guest There are podcasts, there are radio shows, magazines, TV shows. They're always looking for guests. They're always looking for speakers. But truly to get invited, to be known, right, to get that invitation in the first place is you want to be the expert. You want to be known for that single core topic that you are the expert on. And the best place and the best way to showcase you as the expert on that topic is to publish your book on it. And so for me, I wrote the book, Get Discovered, using media interviews and PR, right, to share your message. And so not only can we introduce you as the expert, in fact, she wrote the book on it. And I call this book, Elise, your food book. It's the book that puts food on the table. It attracts the perfect clients. It attracts the perfect stages. And it's like a 100-page love letter to your clients. So it opens up a lot of doors and opportunities. I've personally published 15 books. I have a whole library of books that I've helped others publish. We have a really, adorable masterclass on helping people to publish, but it really can open up amazing doors. If you've already published your book, leveraging podcasts, leveraging interviews, a stage every single week will actually help you sell your book so you can create some passive income. And I know a lot of times people will tell you that there's no money in books. And I am here to tell you there is a lot of money in books. 7 books a day is about $5,000 in sales. That's $15K a quarter. And for most small businesses, that's a game changer. That'll pay for operations. That'll give you a paycheck. It'll pay off some debt. It'll do so many different things. And so there's just a lot of good, right? So number one way, position yourself as the expert, publish the book, create some passive income, open up more doors, create that funnel for your client journey, right? That attraction for that client journey. It's a really powerful tool.
How neat. So if someone already has written a book, what do they do to get it out there more?
Interviews. Honestly, the only thing you can sell in a radio interview or a television interview, you can't sell your programs, you can't sell your products. And even in podcasts, right? They're not there. They're not infomercials. But usually 98% of the time, they will encourage people to go buy your books. They'll say, hey, we have an author. Tell us about your book, because it doesn't feel salesy. You get a bunch of people on a stage or in a podcast who are selling programs and products and services, then the audience starts to feel sold to. But if you get a bunch of authors on these same stages, on these same interviews and saying, hey, I happen to have a book, you can go a little bit deeper. In chapter 7, I give you the whole outline of this whole concept we've just covered. It's a $20, $25 investment for them. They don't feel sold to. In fact, they feel elevated because they've heard the speaker, right? They've heard the author. I've shown up to many events where people have actually bought all of my books, right? So I can sign them. They want to take pictures with you. So if you've already published a book and it's not selling, get on 2 interviews a week. You'll boost those sales and you'll trigger the algorithms, especially if you sell in an online platform like Amazon, you'll trigger their sales algorithm as well. It's super powerful. And most people are telling you there's no money in books because they don't have a stage or a platform to sell those books. We do, because we have this incredible podcast network. And by getting your book in front of all those podcast audiences, your book will sell again.
Oh, that is golden. I love that. And I'm like, oh, I gotta bring up my book more.
Yes, especially you, Elise, right? As you're introducing your shows, closing out your shows, it is very, people love you, right? They're coming to your podcast already to say, hey, we like your message, we like your guests, we like what you're about. You tell them you also have a book for sale. They will rush, right? Like right while they're listening to it. This is also the beautiful thing. Right now, while you're listening, right? You can go onto Amazon and buy Get Discovered by Angel Tuccy. You can buy, what's the name of your book, Elise?
The Faith Strategy Business Planner.
The Faith Strategy Business Planner. Ooh, I want that, right? Like who wouldn't want that, right? We can go right online right now while we're listening and we can order that book. And podcast listeners are buyers, right? Especially maybe even if they're digital, they can get the ebook. They might want the audio book. I'm still a paperback girl, so I love getting paperbacks, right? The actual book in my mailbox. Like it's like Christmas, right? When it shows up. Okay, the faith-based I'm looking it up. Faith-based
Yeah, the Faith
planner.
Strategy
Oh,
Business Planner.
a strategy business planner. Oh, I'm
Yep.
so glad I asked.
Yeah,
Okay.
and since we're on the topic, it's all about building your business in the Lord's way through Jesus Christ parables. So you have a strong agenda to partner with God, and you learn how to apply business principles to the Bible.
I
So,
got it right here.
yeah.
Add to cart. Right? And if you're adding it to cart, go ahead and get a copy of Get Discovered
Yeah.
by Angel Tuccy as well.
I
So
love that. That was great. Okay, so let's talk about gaining local and national media exposure. What kind of suggestions do you have around that?
okay. Every single day, your local media is looking for local stories, human interest stories. You maybe have watched the news and they show a story about a family, they show a story about a small business, right? And they need some of these local interest stories to kind of balance out a little bit of the headlines, right? That they have to run. And every now and then there's a slow news day, right? Have you ever been watching it and you're like, why are they running that story? Right? It must be a slow news day. I love being the story in the slow news day, right? How do you get to be that unique, off balance story or the slow news day story? It's by building relationships with your local news media. And the way that you do that is by sending them a press release. A press release is an announcement of what's actually a current event in your business or in your life, right? If you run a nonprofit, if you volunteer someplace, you have a hobby, you've done some really cool thing. My parents live in a retirement community and they send in stories of when they go to Disney World with their grandkids, right? And sometimes this gets picked up in their local newspaper. So they're always looking for interesting stories, but they're not clairvoyant. They don't have a magic crystal ball, right? They can't see into your business. They don't know what you're doing. And if you start listening and paying attention, you'll hear the words they announced in a press release. Right? The celebrity announced in a press release. The company announced in a press release their merger and acquisition. This author announced in a press release their book tour. This celebrity announced in a press release, right, their news. So you're going to start hearing these words. Well, in order to submit a press release, here's the secret how you can do this, right? How you can also submit your own press release. It's free, right? Every news station has right on their website a place that you can submit your press releases for free. Why? Because they are looking for stories. And if you submit one press release every single month, extra, read all about it. Angel Tuccy interviewed by Elise Smith, right? Talking about this. Extra, read all about it. Elise's book, becomes Amazon bestseller. If you just announce, like, pick one thing once a month, go through your calendar, look at your to-do list, look at all the things you've done. And I like to pick one day a month that's special to me, the day of the month that my birthday falls on. So my birthday falls on the 18th of the month. How about you, Elise? What day of the month is your birthday? The 10th.
Yep.
So on that day, you're going to pull up your calendar. You're going to set up a recurring event. And this is Celebration PR Day. You're going to look at all the things you've done. What are you most excited about? And you're going to pull your team together and you're going to write up a press release. The good news is with AI right now, they write amazing press releases, but fact check it because they also make stuff up. So make sure, right? Our team, we have a service, we write press releases and we distribute press releases for our clients, but you can have an AI chat box, right? Give it the headline, write a press release about my book becoming a bestseller, write a press release, give it the details, and then you can submit that press release to your local news station and start to build up relationships and connections with journalists. And when they need a topic or they need an expert on a certain topic, or it's a slow news day, they could end up bringing you in and doing a cover story on you. Or at the very minimum, they could just host your press release right on their news site, which happens to be on an ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox station, because all local news stations are run by major network affiliates. So if they share your press release on their station, guess what? You grab that masthead you've got a picture of, ABC picked up my story, and you can do this every single month. In fact, I recommend it. 2 interviews a week puts you in front of 100 audiences, 1 press release a month. gives you impressions in front of thousands and thousands of people and hundreds of media news desks. It is an unstoppable, amazing opportunity for you to create unlimited visibility, unlimited exposure. It's a time saver, and all you do is stay in your lane talking about what you love to talk about the most.
How powerful is that, guys? Like, wow. I think you would pay probably at least hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get what you are hearing from Angel right now. This is absolutely amazing. I'm so excited to have you on the show and just have you drop all these amazing golden nuggets. I have to ask you, as we wrap up the show here, what is one message that God has put on your heart to make sure that these ladies who are watching know?
Oh, what is the message that God put on my heart to make sure you know? Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. I think that we often think we're too small, or we're not good enough, or we don't qualify. And God wants you to know that you do. In fact, He's given me this message to go out and share with kingdom-based businesses. Get your message out so that when you speak, you've got a following, you've got an audience. He needs more of his messengers out publicly sharing their story, to creating that audience and creating that following, because I promise you the enemy he's locked and loaded. So yeah, as God's messenger, share your story as often as you can, get featured. And it doesn't have to be a biblical message. Like, He knows the message He wants you to share with the world. Let him use you to share His message, but using traditional media platforms to do that on a regular basis.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. I felt that. Yes, get out there. So if any of this has touched your heart, which I know it has, make sure that you put these things into action. We are not just hearers of the word only, we are doers, ladies. So Angel, once again, thank you so much for being on this show today. Priceless information. If people want to connect with you more, how can they do so?
Well, I would love for them to come and hang out with me. We have an incredible Facebook group. If you want to get booked, or if you have a show and you're looking for guests, it's our Media Matchmaker site. It's called needaguest.com, and it's free to join. If you also want to join my premium networking community, where we do some training and there's networking and discussions, it's also free, and you can sign up at getpremiumforfree.com. That's getpremiumforfree.com. We just want to empower you and give you the tools and resources to go out and share your message on more stages.
Yes. And in fact, because I posted in her Need a Guest Facebook group, I am like so booked out for my podcast with amazing guests. So I really appreciate that, Angel. So go check it out for sure, guys.
I love
All
it.
right, ladies. Well, thanks so much for watching this show of Divinely Driven Results. And if you want more great tips on how to build your business in the Lord's way, make sure you come join our Faithful Ladypreneurs Facebook group, where you can not only connect with great Christian women entrepreneurs, but you can also advertise your business on Saturday's comment thread and even attend our free networking events. And of course, go check out the Faith Strategy Business Planner and Get Discovered books on Amazon. All right, guys, we will see you next time.